do you think that there's a negative connotation with salespeople still? Or do you I know that you believe that people are more informed than ever before and able to detect and all that, but do you think in that initial moment are people kind of like, you're a salesperson? Like, do you get what I'm saying? Like, is there still a negative connotation?
I think it's as big as it's ever been, honestly. And at least from my perspective, and when you're trying to interview people out of college, right? They're looking for jobs. One of the first things they'll tell you is, I don't want to be in sales. And what they think of as being in sales is then having to go and convince people to do something that they don't want to do, right? And by the way, some of the entry-level sales jobs that people get offered that's exactly what it is, right? And so it's like, come here and be in marketing. And then it's like, by the way, your marketing job is to walk around Home Depot or somewhere and try to sell people stuff they don't want, right? And I get it. And by the way, like, those are amazing first jobs, by the way, because if you can survive that, you can do almost anything, right? But that doesn't have to be what sales is, right? And sales at its best is making people aware of a product that can improve the quality of their life, right? That's what sales really is, making people aware of and educating them on a product that can improve their life. And then at the highest level then is which of those products or how that product can best improve their life or their situation. That's not how people talk about it, right? And the truth is, when people talk about sales, it's a negative connotation because when somebody's amazing at sales, the other person doesn't even know that they were sold, right? Doctors are salespeople. People are like, what do you mean? It's like, well, if I'm a surgeon, to a surgeon, everything looks like something that needs surgery. But right? I think we might have even talked about this.
We just had a conversation last week about this. Yeah.
It's like, oh, your leg's broken. The best thing you do for this is surgery. And we're like, okay, doc, cool.
Cut
right? Maybe get a second opinion. Right. And so, but like, it's that person's coming at you with confidence and expertise, and we expect them to have our best interest in heart. And probably most of the time they usually do. And so, but when sales is at its best, when it's introducing you to an option you didn't know existed and educating you on that option and making you feel comfortable about it, you don't even know you got sold. That's what's happening at the doctor's office. And so when we talk about sales and being sold, it's immediately negative because it means you're aware of it, right? And it comes out in the wrong way.
Right. It's like manipulation all of a sudden, right? Like just like being sold. It's like, oh, I'm being manipulated.
Yeah.
But I think you're right that, and this actually dovetails nicely into the next thing I want to talk about, which is just like the importance and the difference. And we talk about it in the selling system, the importance and the difference between being proactive and being a pursuer. What's the distinction there in your mind between being proactive and being a pursuer?
Well, why are you? It's the why, right? Mm-hmm. So people can listen. You can sense when somebody is chasing you because there's something in it for them or not. And then there's like different levels of it, right? Like somebody can pursue you because they really care about you, right? If your mom's checking in to make sure you're okay and she calls you every day, or you're like, oh, she's pursuing me. It's like, no, man, she cares about you. She's checking in, right? And then there's sometimes where, in sales, really, people don't expect you to necessarily completely have their interest at heart, but they do expect that you're looking for a win-win, right? And so if you can deliver value to that other person for whatever it is that you're expecting, that's going to feel like you're being proactive or you're trying to find a way. By the way, and pursuit means that someone has let you know very specifically that they're not interested, then cool, then move on, right? And so, one of the things I used to say to people is, when I used to call in the call center, I leave a message and be like, hey, listen, I do not want to keep calling you. I was like, but my company paid a lot of money for this lead, and I know this loan makes sense for you, so I'm going to need you to do me a favor. I don't care if it's at 3 a.m. I don't care if it's a text message, an email, a phone call. If you don't want me to call anymore, just say so, and I promise I will never bother you again. But until then, I have kind of a moral obligation because I believe in this loan to keep following up with you. So either let me off the hook or let me know when we're moving forward. And people would call back all the time from that. And they would almost always want to move forward, or they would apologize. They'd be like, hey, I already went with somebody else. I decided I'm not doing this. But it changes the game. It's like, I'm doing my job. Right. And I believe in what I'm trying to get with you. And by the way, I want to make this easy for you. I'm not trying to create stress for you. You shouldn't do this if you don't want to do it. But I do need to know one way or the other. Right. You'd be doing me a favor by letting me know. Let me off the hook. And that really works with people. And so, it's about the way you treat people and whose interest you have at heart in that situation.
And that would be also part of in a way, that ties into creating value, right? Like in that scenario, suddenly you're the person who's just looking out for them and needs an answer one way or another, has no skin in the game. We know that I'm going to get paid based on whether you do this or not, but I'm not going to try to hard sell you. I just need you to understand. I need an answer one way or the other. And in that way, you suddenly become more trusted, but you're also,
Right.
you're creating value in a way, right? Like what is, I guess, what are some ways that you encourage the loan officers or any salesperson, frankly, listening to this? How can they go out there and create value like that? Because I feel like even that conversation, the way that you approach that, I could see people either A, never thinking to approach it that way, or B, approaching it that way simply to try to then hard sell them, right? Like if I can get them on the phone, no matter what, I'm going to hard sell. So how do you switch over to a mindset of like that go-giver mindset of, I'm just going to create value. I'm really going to be here. I'm really going to just be proactive. I'm not going to push too hard. And I have faith then that sales will come.
Well, I think it takes a little bit of introspection, right? And so what I mean by that is if you look back at your own life and you think about when you want information on something that you don't currently know about, would you rather get that information from someone that you know, like, and trust, or someone that you don't? Right? Almost always the answer is going to be somebody that I know, like, and trust. And then what's that experience like when it actually happens? When maybe there's nothing in it for the other person, they just share this information with you. Those are some incredibly valuable conversations. And so then you say, how can I become that person for more people? And the answer is to have a wide array of people that you're in contact with, that come in contact with, where you're constantly thinking about what you can do to make that person's situation better, right? And whether that might mean helping them move their couch. There may be nothing in it for you. But if you're living in a community of people and everybody constantly feels like you have their interest at heart and that you're giving more than you're taking back, right? You're delivering more from this person than you accept in payment, is what it comes down to. Then that's going to keep people coming back. I always say to people, McDonald's sold billions and billions of burgers because they cost $3. If they cost as much as a filet mignon from Ruth's Chris, no one would grab a burger. Right? The reason why McDonald's is successful is because they're delivering more in value than they're accepting in payment. Right? And so in the relationship world is, do I get more out of my interactions from Mark than what he expects me to give back? Or is it at least equitable? Right? And so if every time someone's in an interaction with Mark, they're buying me a drink, or I'm asking them for advice, or I'm putting my woes onto them, or I'm asking them to buy something from me, they're going to be like, I hate Mark. But every time I see Mark is sharing some piece of information with me, teaching me about what's going on in the community, asking me questions about myself and letting me talk about what's going on with me, making me feel better about something, helping me move my couch, helping me with my dog, whatever those things are, then I'm going to love Mark. Right. And that's how we think about all of our relationships. And so I know that if my job is to sell a lot of people a mortgage, I need to know a lot of people. I need all those people when they think of me to think about, oh, I know Mark. I like Mark. I trust Mark. And by the way, Mark is always delivering more value than he accepts from me. I would love to work with Mark on my mortgage. It's the least I could do to get back to him. I would love to refer my friend Pauline when she's looking for a mortgage to Mark, because Mark has done so much for me. Right. And so unless you're cynical, and I'm not, I think that's how the world mostly works. And I try to live by that every day.
I was going to say to you that I feel like that is how we all want the world to work. And I think there's a real, and we won't go too deep into this. It'll become a random podcast about other stuff, but there's a deep cynicism, I think, right now, unfortunately. And I think when you can show people like, no, I'm genuinely saying to you, just let me know one way or the other so I can be off the hook. Or no, I really just have this piece of information. We understand that if you have a mortgage, I would like you to send it to me, but I'm not like, hey, are you ready to refinance now that I gave you this ebook? I think it's refreshing to people.
I'll just say this, and I'm about to make a bunch of people who are going to listen to this super angry. You ready for this? Turn the cameras on. We're ready to go. I moved to Charleston, South Carolina almost 4 years ago. Here, where I live, there is no cynicism around these things. When people do things for each other, and not none, whenever you talk about absolutes, it's all whatever, right? But I remember the first 6 months we were here, my wife thought everyone was trying to take advantage of her because everyone was so nice and friendly and they were waving and they were offering to do things. And she was like literally waiting for the other shoe to drop the whole time. Because we grew up in New Jersey and it just wasn't the same. When people were nice to you or someone walked up to you and asked you for directions or whatever, you were immediately holding onto your wallet while you maybe showed them where to go, or your parents would yell at you and tell you to keep going, right? Because anybody who was talking to you, there was an angle, there was a thing. And by the way, some of those stereotypes were real and we had to be protective in a different way. It was a different culture. And as I adjusted it down here, I don't know what to tell you. It's not the same. And so, I think a loan officer getting started in New Jersey, if they don't know anybody, is a whole lot harder in some ways than somebody who's doing it down here. I think generally here, people give you the benefit of the doubt until they learn otherwise. And I think they're happier as a result. And so I think, it's not so much a cynicism or not cynicism. It's actually how big do you let your circle go and how fast are you willing to let people in? And in New Jersey, the answer is, hey, listen, for a lot where I grew up, at least in New Jersey, and my friends, it was, I've had the same friends forever. My cousins all live here. My family all lives here. I have my community. It's hard to break in, hard to get to meet people in a new way. And here in the South, it's still different demeanor. And also you have a lot of people moving into this area. So everybody's kind of newer to the area, making friends. And so it's just easier and different. And I'll just share anyone out there, even if you live in the most cynical part of the country, whatever else it is, or you think everyone's going to take advantage of you, give it a chance because it's worth getting your heart broken once or twice to live in a world where you're meeting new people, building new relationships and getting those things going. And even the most cynical people you can eventually wear down if over time you are consistent in how you're putting their needs and wants above your own. And that's how your influence is coming from it. There's tremendous opportunity to change other people by consistently behaving this way.
That is so well said and very prescient, because even so, I was just saying this to my wife last night. She was laughing at me because my son was in soccer and there was a dad that I got along with. And she's like, you're like a little kid right now. Like you're trying to be like make friends and like do whatever. And I'm like, it's so hard to make actual friends, I guess, in New Jersey after a certain age. Like, it's like everybody's got their people. I'm not trying to like whatever. And it's like, she was right. Like I was like literally.
I was guilty of it too.
Dude, I was
yeah, go ahead.
No, I was just gonna be like, what should I text back? Like, what should I? Just like, are you dating this guy? Like, what's happening right now?
It's true. I mean, I moved to my dream home a year and a half before we moved down to Charleston, and I never even really met my neighbors. Right? And too busy. It's cold. It's this. Everyone's running place, whatever it is. But like, it's just I grew up in my hometown. I was living there. I didn't know anybody. All my friends had moved away, and I wasn't making any new friends. But a very different experience down here, and it's a better way. Do I think if I went back to New Jersey, I would continue to behave this way? I do. I think it's changed me in a very different way, and I wouldn't change. I think it's a better way to live. But I do understand how it's different in different places, and it's harder in certain areas.
And there's a mental shift component, I think, is what you just touched on too. Like you've now made a choice. You've seen a different way of doing things. There's kind of no going back. And I from bringing it full circle from a sales perspective, I think it's about making a choice. It's just like with everything in life. I think everyone's always waiting for this thunder, this lightning to hit them to change their lives, their minds, their whatever. It's like you have to make a choice and then go with it, right? Are you gonna try to sell people? Or are you gonna connect with people? And that's what it boils down to at the end of the day.
Create rules of the game for yourself, and those rules of the game become habits, and suddenly you're behaving in a way that is likely to lead to different results and outcomes.
Well said.